All right, pyramids. You guys know we love to go deep, and you've been sending over tons of videos all about Egypt and specifically the pyramids.
It seems like people are fascinated by the mysteries and all the strange theories.
Yeah. It's like there are two camps, right? You've got the traditional view of pyramids as
Hmm.
these elaborate tombs for the pharaohs,
Right.
maybe with some astronomical stuff thrown in.
Right, like a roadmap to the afterlife.
Exactly. But then you've got this whole other side, this idea that pyramids were actually ancient power plants, like they were humming with energy. Super wild.
Yeah, and these videos we're looking at today, they really make you think about possibilities that are kind of outside the box.
I love that. It's like, what if? But before we get into the crazy theories, let's just take a minute to appreciate how totally massive the pyramids are. Like
Hmm.
the Great Pyramid of Giza, two football fields side by side.
Bro.
And then on top of that, taller than the Empire State Building. It was the tallest structure in the world for like 4,000 years.
It's hard to even imagine the scale.
Seriously. And they built this thing with over 2 million stone blocks. Some of those blocks weigh as much as like 80 tons. Can you imagine trying to move something that heavy with the technology they had back then?
It's mind-boggling. The engineering is just incredible.
Yeah, it's not just the size either, it's the precision too. The base of the Great Pyramid is almost a perfect square, and it's aligned almost perfectly to true north.
That alignment has always fueled speculation about their purpose. For a long time, the main theory was that they were tombs, and the discovery of hieroglyphics seemed to support that.
Oh yeah, the hieroglyphics, especially the pyramid texts they found in those pyramids at Saqqara. They talk about the Ka, which is like the eternal soul.
Right, the Ka.
And these texts describe the pharaoh's Ka, like traveling to the stars to join the gods. It makes you think that maybe the pyramids were more than just tombs. Maybe they were like a symbolic pathway to paradise.
Maybe even a literal pathway, some people think.
Whoa, and this idea of the pyramids being connected to the stars, that's a big part of the Orion Correlation Theory, right?
Yeah, that one's pretty popular.
It basically says that the layout of those three big pyramids at Giza, they line up with the stars in Orion's belt.
Pretty amazing if they could do that, right?
Totally. And then you have some folks who take that theory and run with it, like Philip Coppens. He suggests that maybe the pyramids were used to, like, physically transport pharaohs into space.
I mean, it's a cool idea.
Right. It connects to that whole idea of the pharaoh's Ka going to the stars.
Right.
Plus, a lot of the sarcophagi they find in the pyramids are empty.
Yeah, but most experts think that's because of grave robbers. It was a big problem back then.
True, grave robbers were everywhere.
Hmm.
Okay, so maybe not spaceships. But then we get into this other theory that the pyramids were ancient power plants. One of the videos mentioned an engineer, Christopher Dunn. He wrote this whole book about it. He points out that in the Great Pyramid, they've never found any human remains
Interesting.
or any funerary objects either. So it makes you wonder, was it even meant to be a tomb?
Makes you think, huh?
And he talks about this concept called coupled oscillators. It's basically a way to convert vibrations into energy.
Like, imagine the whole pyramid vibrating, creating power.
Whoa, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. And there's this other engineer, John Cadman. He was studying the chambers underneath the Great Pyramid. He built a scale model, and when water flowed through it, it actually created these vibrations. I said it was almost like a heartbeat.
Okay, so now I'm picturing the pyramid like pulsing with energy. But how would they generate those vibrations in the first place? Like, what was the source?
So Cadman's theory was that they used water from a nearby lake. It would flow through these tunnels into the pyramid and then up through a duct into the queen's chamber. And from there, it would flow out to the Nile River.
So like a giant water pump.
Exactly, that's the idea. And the water flowing through would create those vibrations.
Wow, that's pretty ingenious. But how does that turn into like usable power?
Well, Dunn's theory is that they amplify the vibrations using chemical reactions inside the queen's chamber.
Wait, chemical reactions inside the pyramid.
Yeah. They found salt and gypsum coating the walls of the queen's chamber. And Dunn thinks that they used dilute hydrochloric acid and hydrated zinc solution pumped in through those shafts in the chamber.
Whoa, so like a chemical reactor.
Right. And those chemicals would react to produce hydrogen gas. And that hydrogen gas would basically amplify those vibrations from the water pump.
Okay, so now I've got this pyramid. It's vibrating. It's got chemical reactions happening. It's a serious power plant. But what did they do with all that energy?
Well, this is where it gets even wilder. Dunn suggests that those massive quartz and granite stones in the center of the pyramid, they acted as giant capacitors. Like they were storing all that vibrational energy.
Giant rocks as batteries.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So if they had all this power, what were they using it for? Like, was ancient Egypt all lit up?
Well, that brings us to another theory, the idea of ancient Egyptian light bulbs.
Wait, seriously, light bulbs? Like the ancient Egyptians had electricity.
There are these depictions in Egyptian artwork that look kind of like light bulbs. One of the most famous ones is the Dendera light relief.
Interesting.
And in the 1980s, an engineer named Walter Garn actually built a working model based on the Dendera light. But it used regular electricity, not pyramid power.
So it's kind of like we see the resemblance, but we don't have any hard evidence that the ancient Egyptians had electric lights powered by the pyramids. But it's still a super cool idea.
Totally. It really makes you think, you know. And if they were generating energy with the pyramids, why did they stop building them? Pyramid construction didn't last that long compared to the rest of their civilization.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe they figured out a better way to get power, or maybe they just had enough pyramids to meet their needs, like a whole network of power plants.
Who knows? It's one of the many mysteries surrounding these incredible structures.
And it's what makes them so fascinating, right? All the possibilities. All right, well, we've just scratched the surface here with pyramids. Let's move on and check out some other unusual places around the world, shall we?
You know, it's really interesting when you think about those pyramid theories, especially the ones about like advanced technology. It kind of challenges our whole idea of progress, doesn't it?
It's true. We always assume we're at the peak of human achievement, right?
Right.
But what if there were civilizations way back when that new stuff had capabilities that we're just starting to figure out again?
Right. Like we're rediscovering lost knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to some other unusual places around the world. One of the videos mentioned this area in Spain. They call it the Garden of Europe, but it's covered in plastic.
What? It's like trash.
Not exactly.
Uh-huh.
It's called Poniente Almeriense,
Mm-hmm.
and it's this massive area of greenhouses. It covers something like 1,000 square kilometers. It's actually in this region called Campo de Dalias.
Wow, so instead of an island, it's like a sea of plastic? That's crazy.
Yeah. Started building them back in the 1960s. It used to be a really dry area, but now it's like a huge agricultural center.
So they're growing food in there.
Tons of it. It's where about half of Europe's fruits and vegetables come from.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. But there are some downsides too. Like all that plastic, you know, what happens to it when they're done with it?
Right. It's got to end up somewhere.
Yeah, and a lot of it ends up in the Mediterranean Sea. It's a big problem for the environment, especially for marine life. And there are also questions about the people working in the greenhouses. A lot of them are migrants, and some people say they're not treated fairly.
So it's kind of a mixed bag, right?
Yeah, progress often comes with a price. Okay, shifting gears completely. One of the sources talked about this island with the weirdest plants and animals. They said it's like nowhere else on Earth.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one. What was it called?
Socotra Island. It's part of an archipelago in the Indian Ocean.
What made it so unique?
Well, it's been separated from the mainland for millions of years. So the plants and animals there have evolved in isolation. Like they have species you won't find anywhere else.
So, like, totally alien creatures. What kind of stuff are we talking about?
Well, there's this tree. It looks like a giant umbrella. It's called the Socotra dragon tree. Super weird looking. And tons of other strange plants. The whole landscape is really different.
Sounds like a cool place to visit, but it's probably overrun with tourists, right?
You'd think so, but it's actually pretty untouched. It's really remote, and there isn't much infrastructure.
Interesting. So it's like a hidden gem.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah.
There are about 70,000 people living there. And they even have their own language, Socotri.
Wow. Their own language. That's incredible. It really is like a world apart. Okay, so we've seen a plastic garden and an alien island. What else is there?
How about a ghost town capital city?
A ghost town. That's creepy.
Yeah, it's a bit strange. This one's in Myanmar. The city's called Nay Pyi Da.
I've never even heard of it.
Most people haven't. See, back in 2005, the government decided to move the capital from Yangon to Nay Pyi Da. But Nay Pyi Da was just this tiny town at the time.
Wait, so they just decided to move the entire capital city. Why would they do that?
That's a good question, and nobody really knows for sure. Some people think it was strategic to protect the government from outside threats, but who knows?
Interesting. So they built this whole new city.
Oh, yeah. It's massive. Wide avenues, fancy hotels, government buildings. They even have a 20-lane highway.
20 lanes. That's insane.
I know, but here's the thing. Hardly anybody lives there. It's like they built it and nobody came.
That's so weird, like a city from a dream. So why didn't people move there?
It's hard to say. Maybe they just didn't want to leave Yangon. Or maybe the government didn't do a good job of making it a place where people wanted to live.
It's a bit sad, isn't it? All those empty streets and buildings. It's a reminder that you can build a city, but you can't force people to love it. Okay, this next one is a little more lighthearted. One of the videos talked about these hills that are shaped like giant chocolate drops.
Oh, yeah. The Chocolate Hills. They're in the Philippines on an island called Bohol.
Are they really shaped like chocolate drops?
They are. There are over 1,700 of them. And they're all these perfectly symmetrical cones. It's pretty wild.
Okay, gotta ask. Are they made of chocolate? Can you eat them?
Haha, I wish. No, they're made of limestone. But they get their name from the dry season. The grass that covers them turns brown, and it makes them look like chocolate.
Ah, that makes sense. Still, it's a pretty cool sight, even if you can't take a bite. Okay, so we've had a plastic-covered landscape, a ghost town, chocolate hills. It feels like we've seen it all. What else could there be?
Oh, there's so much more. Remember, we're just scratching the surface here. For example, have you ever heard of a lake that's pink?
A pink lake, you're kidding, right?
Nope. It's in Western Australia. It gets its color from this special type of algae. It's called Dunaliella salina.
Algae. So it's not like pollution or something.
Nope, totally natural. The algae produce this red pigment called beta-carotene, but it only happens under certain conditions, lots of salt, high temperatures, and lots of sunlight. And when all those things come together, boom, pink lake.
That is so cool. It's like Mother Nature's own Instagram filter. But I bet it's packed with tourists all trying to get the perfect selfie.
Actually, it's pretty remote, so not that many people go there.
That's great. It's nice to know some places are still off the beaten path. Okay, so we've had a pink lake. What else is there in the rainbow of weirdness?
Well, how about a mountain that looks like a rainbow?
You're messing with me now, right?
I'm serious. It's called Vinicunca, or Rainbow Mountain. It's in Peru. And it's this incredible mountain with stripes of color, gold, lavender, red, turquoise. It's amazing.
Okay, stop. You're making this up. A rainbow mountain.
I promise it's real. And it was actually hidden under snow and ice for centuries. But with climate change, the glaciers are melting, and they've revealed this amazing mountain.
Wow, that's pretty cool, but also kind of sad, you know? Like we're discovering these hidden wonders, but it's because the planet is changing.
Yeah, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. But anyway, about Rainbow Mountain, the colors come from all these different minerals in the rock. Over millions of years, these layers of sediment were deposited and compressed, and now they're being exposed.
Like a giant layer cake of geology.
Exactly. But sadly, now that it's been discovered, it's become a huge tourist attraction.
Oh no, really?
Yeah, which is causing its own problems.
Yeah.
Too many people can damage the environment and disrupt the local communities.
It's a tough balance, isn't it? Wanting to see these amazing places, but also wanting to protect them. Okay, so we've seen a rainbow mountain. Anything else that can top that?
Well, how about a town where people live underground to escape the heat?
Underground, like in caves?
Sort of. This
Okay.
is in Australia. The town is called Coober Pedy. It's out in the outback, one of the hottest and driest places in the country.
Okay, I can see why you'd want to be underground there.
Right. Temperatures can get up to like 120 degrees.
Hmm.
So people started digging these homes and businesses underground. They call them dugouts.
Dugout, so it's like a whole subterranean city.
Pretty much. They even have churches and shops underground, and it's not as bad as it sounds. Some of the dugouts are really nice. They have swimming pools and even underground gardens.
Underground gardens? Seriously?
Yep. It's pretty amazing. It makes you think. Maybe this is how we'll all live someday if climate change gets worse.
Yeah, it's kind of a glimpse into a possible future, isn't it? Okay, on a more serious note, one of the sources mentioned this island where there's a tribe that's had almost no contact with the outside world.
Oh yeah, North Sentinel Island. It's in the Bay of Bengal.
What's the story there?
Well, the people who live there, the Sentinelese, they're thought to be direct descendants of the first humans who left Africa. Like they've been there for tens of thousands of years, completely isolated.
Whoa, that's incredible. And they've never had contact with the outside world.
Very little. They're very protective of their island. They've attacked people who have tried to approach.
Wow, I don't blame them. I can't imagine what it would be like to have your whole world suddenly invaded.
Exactly. It's best to respect their isolation. Plus, there's the risk of introducing diseases.
It's a good reminder that sometimes the best way to help is to just stay away. But it's still fascinating to think about a culture that's completely untouched by the modern world. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. What's next on our list of weird and wonderful places?
Let's move on to the final leg of our journey and explore a few more fascinating destinations.
Okay, ready for the final leg of our weird world tour. This next one is about a place called Magnetic Hill.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of
It's
those.
in India. Apparently, cars roll uphill there.
It's a pretty famous spot.
Yeah.
There are actually a couple of theories about how it works. Some people say that the hill has this super strong magnetic force that pulls cars uphill.
Whoa. Seriously. Like a giant magnet.
Right. And some people even claim that the Indian Air Force, they won't fly over the area because the magnetic force messes with their instruments.
That's crazy. But, like, is that even possible?
Well, most scientists think it's actually an optical illusion. The way the surrounding landscape is shaped, it makes your brain think a downhill slope is going uphill.
Oh, so it's just tricking our eyes.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's still a cool phenomenon.
Yeah.
Shows how easily our perception can be fooled. Okay, ready for another visual wonder? This one's a lake in British Columbia that looks like a giant polka dot pattern.
Wait, what? A polka dot lake? How is that even a thing?
It's called Spotted Lake. It's in the Okanagan Valley. For most of the year, it looks like a normal lake, but then in the summer, when it gets really hot and the water starts to evaporate, these hundreds of pools are left behind.
So it's like the lake shrinks and reveals all these spots.
Exactly. And the spots are all different colors, yellow, green, blue. It's really pretty wild.
I gotta know, what makes the spots? Is it some kind of algae, like that pink lake we talked about?
Nope, this one's all about minerals. There are high concentrations of minerals like calcium, sodium sulfates, and magnesium sulfate in the lake water. And as the water evaporates, the minerals are left behind in these concentrated pools, creating the spots.
So basically, it's like a giant science experiment.
Kind of. And here's a fun fact. There are supposedly 365 individual pools the same number of days in a year.
Whoa. No way. Is that just a coincidence?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty cool. It just adds to the mystery of Spotted Lake. All right, ready for a change of pace? How about a love story with a twist?
Ooh, I like where this is going. Tell me more.
It's called the Tunnel of Love. It's in Ukraine. Imagine this. A railway track disappearing into this lush, green tunnel formed by the branches of trees. Super romantic.
Wow, that sounds beautiful. Like something out of a fairy tale.
It is. It's near a village called Klevan. And get this, the railway line actually splits in two. One branch goes to Klevan, and the other goes to this secret military base hidden in the forest.
Wait, so it's a romantic tunnel that leads to a secret military base? That's kind of amazing.
Right. Talk about a hidden world. They say that during the Cold War, they deliberately planted trees along the track that led to the base to try to camouflage it. And over time, the branches just grew and grew and created this tunnel.
That's crazy. It's like nature just took over and made something beautiful out of something that was meant to be secret. Okay, what's next?
Well, this last one is a bit of a mind bender. Imagine a forest where the trees seem to float in midair.
Trees floating in the air. Okay, now I know you're making this up.
I swear, it's real. It's in China, this place called Zhangjiajie National Forest Park.
Zhangjiajie. I think I've seen pictures of that place. It's the one with those crazy tall rock formations, right?
That's the one. The source describes it as all these quartzite sandstone formations, hundreds of them, some of them over 3,000 feet tall.
Whoa.
And when there's mist, or if you catch them in the right light, it creates this illusion that the pillars are detached from the ground, like they're floating.
It sounds absolutely incredible, like something from another planet. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today. From the pyramids of Egypt to a polka dot lake and a floating forest, we've seen some seriously amazing places.
It's been an incredible journey exploring all these unusual places, and they really show us how much diversity and wonder there is in the world.
Absolutely. And it's not just about these specific places. It's about being curious, about looking at the world with a sense of wonder. There's so many incredible things out there just waiting to be discovered.
Exactly. So to everyone listening, keep exploring. Keep those minds curious and never stop being amazed by the world around us.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive for today. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for more explorations into the weird and wonderful corners of our planet.